Right now, somewhere in your garden, your tomato plants look fine. Green leaves, flowers forming, maybe even a few small fruits starting to swell. Everything looks like you're winning. And that's exactly the problem. Because the 5 mistakes that destroyed tomato plants in June don't announce themselves. They don't show up the day you make them. They show up 10 days later when the damage is already done and the plant is already past saving. One of these 5 mistakes can take a tomato plant that is 6 feet tall, loaded with green fruit, and turn it into a brown, collapsed skeleton before the end of the month. Not a sick plant, not a weak plant, a healthy, thriving plant that you worked all spring to build. Gone. And the worst part? Most gardeners who lose plants in June never find out why. They assume it was the heat, or bad luck, or just one of those years. It wasn't. It was one of these 5 mistakes. And by the end of this video, you are going to know every single one of them, what they are, why they destroy the plant on a biological level, and exactly what to do instead, with the amounts, the timing, and the specific products named, not vague advice, the actual fix. Let's start with the one that fools even experienced gardeners every single time. Mistake 1. Inconsistent, shallow watering and the rot it creates. You have seen it before, and you probably didn't know what caused it. The tomato looks perfect from above, tall, green, healthy. Then you flip a fruit over and the bottom has gone dark, leathery, sunken, like something pressed a hot iron directly into it. That is blossom end rot. And here is what almost nobody tells you about it. It is not a disease. It is not caused by a bug. And in most backyard gardens, it is not even caused by calcium deficiency in your soil. The University of Illinois Extension classifies it as a physiological disorder. The University of Maryland Extension ties it directly to inconsistent watering and drought stress. Here is the biology. Once you understand this, you will never make this mistake again. Calcium does not move freely inside a tomato plant. It does not just sit in the soil waiting to be used. It travels with water, pulled up through the roots, carried into the fruit as the plant drinks. When you water deeply on Monday, skip Tuesday and Wednesday, throw a little on Thursday, and soak it again on Saturday, you are interrupting the calcium delivery every few days. The fruit is growing fastest right at the blossom end, the part farthest from the stem. That is the part that starves first. The cells collapse. You get rot. The soil can be full of calcium and it still happens. This is why crushing eggshells into the hole, dropping antacid tablets in at planting, or pouring calcium products onto already sufficient soil usually does nothing. A lot of videos will sell you the calcium fix. The real fix is water consistency. You deserve to hear that plainly. Here is exactly how to do it. Give your tomatoes 1 to 2 inches of water per week, delivered in 1 or 2 deep, long soakings, not a daily sprinkle. A daily splash only wets the top inch. The roots stay shallow. The plant panics the moment the surface dries. Deep and infrequent does the opposite. It trains the roots to push down into the soil where moisture stays steady. A deep-rooted plant can handle a hot week without missing a beat. After you water, lay 2 to 3 inches of straw or shredded leaf mulch over the soil. It holds moisture between waterings like a lid on a pot. And before every watering, push your finger 2 inches into the soil. Damp down there, wait. Dry, water deeply. That finger test is worth more than any moisture meter you'll find at the garden center. One more thing. If you're gardening in sandy soil, common across the South and parts of the coastal mid-Atlantic, the water drains fast, and you may need to water more often to stay ahead of it. If you're on the heavy clay soils of the Midwest, water less often and let it soak in slow. Either way, the goal is the same. Steady moisture, never a flood followed by a drought. And here is the bonus. Fix this, and you also stop your tomatoes from cracking and splitting open overnight. The other heartbreak that comes after one heavy rain on a dry plant. Mistake 2. Feeding too much nitrogen all season long. This is the mistake that feels like love. You want big, strong, healthy tomato plants. So you reach for the all-purpose plant food, the bright blue granules, and you feed them rich nitrogen all season long. And the plant rewards you. It grows enormous, lush, dark green, the kind of plant that makes your neighbor stop at the fence and ask what you're doing differently. And then it gives you almost no tomatoes. The old-timers have a phrase for this. The plant goes all divine. Here is what is happening inside the plant. Nitrogen is the leaf and stem nutrient. It tells the plant to grow green tissue. When there is an abundance of it, the plant pours every calorie into foliage, because that is the signal you keep sending. But fruit does not run on nitrogen. Flowering and fruiting run heavily on phosphorus, the middle number on the fertilizer bag, and on potassium, the last number, which the plant uses to size up and ripen the fruit. A plant flooded with nitrogen and starved of the signal to reproduce will keep making leaves. It will postpone fruit indefinitely. You have grown a beautiful houseplant that happens to be a tomato. Oklahoma State University Extension recommends switching the other direction at fruiting time. A low nitrogen, higher phosphorus blend, something like a 10-20-10, worked in at planting time. That middle number, the 20, drives flowering. Here is your fix. Stop using the same high nitrogen all-purpose fertilizer from spring through summer. Pick up a fertilizer formulated specifically for tomatoes and vegetables. A 10-20-10 or a 5-10-10, available at any Home Depot, Lowe's, or local garden center. Side dress it lightly around the base of the plant once fruit begins to set, keeping it a few inches off the stem. If you would rather feed the soil than the plant directly, work a few inches of finished compost into the bed before you transplant. Compost releases slowly and steadily, feeding the plant without ever spiking the nitrogen. And here is the part nobody mentions. The North Carolina Cooperative Extension notes that an overdose of high nitrogen fertilizer can trigger flowers to drop right off the plant entirely. So the thing you thought was helping can cost you the harvest twice, once in leaves, once in lost flowers. But here is where it gets more dangerous. Because mistake number 3 is not about feeding or watering at all. It is about a habit so natural, so instinctive, that almost every gardener does it without ever thinking twice. And it is the one that kills the plant. Mistake 3. Overhead watering in the evening. This is the one in the title. This is the one that turns a healthy plant into a brown skeleton. And it starts the way almost every story about gardening does, with someone trying to do right by their plants. You come home after a long hot day. Your tomatoes have been sitting in the sun for hours. They look tired, a little droopy. And so you do the kind thing. You take the hose or the watering can, and you give the whole plant a good soaking from above, leaves and all, in the cool of the evening. That single caring habit is one of the most dangerous things you can do to a tomato plant in June. Here is exactly how the damage works. Tomatoes are vulnerable to a group of fungal and water mold diseases: early blight, septoria leaf spot, and the most destructive of all, late blight. The spores that cause these diseases live in the soil and on old plant debris. They are always there, waiting. Iowa State University is direct about this. Spores spread to new leaves through splashing rain or overhead watering. When you blast water down from above, or even when you water hard at the base and the soil splashes upward, you fling those spores onto the lowest leaves. Once a spore lands on a leaf, it needs one thing to germinate and break in moisture: a wet leaf that stays wet. And what does evening watering do better than anything else? It leaves the foliage soaking all through the night. Hours and hours of darkness and damp, the exact conditions those spores are waiting for. Early blight and septoria will work their way up from the bottom, browning and dropping leaves one row at a time. That alone can strip a plant bare and ruin your season. But late blight is different. It is not a true fungus at all. It is a water mold, Phytophthora infestans, the same organism behind the Irish potato famine of the 1840s. And it does not politely start at the bottom of the plant. It hits anywhere. It moves fast. The University of Florida warns it can destroy a plant within days. A plant covered in green fruit can collapse into brown, rotted debris in under 2 weeks. That is not an exaggeration. That is what late blight does. And you invited it in with a watering can. Here is the fix, and it is the simplest change in this entire video. Stop watering from overhead. Water at the base of the plant, at the soil, never on the leaves. Switch to a soaker hose or a basic drip line. You can buy one for $15 to $20 at any hardware store. Lay it directly on the soil under the plant. Cornell University recommends drip irrigation over overhead watering for exactly this reason. And if you must water by hand, do it in the morning, not the evening, so the sun dries any splash within the hour instead of leaving the plant soaked all night. Then do 3 more things. Lay down that 2 to 3 inch mulch layer we talked about in mistake 1. It acts as a physical barrier between the soil and the leaves, stopping spores from splashing upward. Strip off every leaf within 6 to 8 inches of the ground. Those are the first to get hit, and removing them eliminates the easiest entry point. And every time you cut or prune, wipe your shears with 70% isopropyl alcohol, the kind from any drugstore, between every single plant. You can carry disease from a sick plant to a healthy one on the blade without ever knowing it. There is a bonus here too. Morning-based watering evaporates far less. Your plant gets more water and you use less of it. Now walk your plants every couple of days and look at the lower leaves closely. Early blight shows up as dark brown spots with concentric rings inside, a small bullseye pattern, starting low and climbing. Septoria looks like scattered small spots with pale gray centers and dark edges. Late blight is something else entirely, irregular. Water-soaked patches that can appear anywhere on the plant, often with a whitish fuzz on the underside of the leaf on a damp morning. If you see the bullseye or the gray spots, pull those leaves off immediately. Bag them. Trash them. Never the compost pile, because the compost just preserves the disease for next year. If you ever suspect late blight, act that day. With that one, you are racing the clock. Mistake 4. Never pruning and letting the plant become a jungle. There is a comfortable myth in gardening that the kindest thing you can do is let a plant grow however it wants. For indeterminate tomatoes, the tall, vining varieties that keep growing all season, that hands-off approach quietly works against you every single month. Here is why. Tomatoes constantly throw out suckers, new shoots that emerge in the V-shaped joint where a branch meets the main stem. Left alone, every sucker becomes a full branch, and every full branch becomes another branch. In a few weeks, the plant becomes a tangled wall of foliage. Air cannot move through it. After rain or morning dew, the inside of that thicket stays humid for hours. And trapped humidity against wet leaves is an open door for every disease we just covered in Mistake 3. Michigan State University Extension reports that removing suckers leads to bigger fruit, earlier ripening, and fewer disease problems across the season. The University of California Master Gardener program confirms the same outcome for indeterminate varieties. The technique takes 5 minutes a week, and you can start tonight. When a sucker is small, 1 to 2 inches long, pinch it off with your fingers right at the V. Clean, simple, done. Stay on top of it weekly, and the plant never gets out of control. Wipe your fingers or snips with alcohol between plants every single time. But here is what to do when life happened and you missed a few weeks. If a sucker has already grown into a thick shoot with several sets of leaves, do not rip the whole thing out. Tearing out that much growth at once shocks the plant and suddenly exposes fruit that was shaded to full direct sun. Instead, use what growers call Missouri pruning. Take clean snips and clip just the growing tip off the oversized sucker, leaving the bottom 2 sets of leaves. That stops the sucker from getting bigger and pulling energy, while keeping those leaves in place to shade the fruit underneath. It is the way to take back control of a jungle without traumatizing the plant in the heat of June. Now, one honest note here, because you deserve accuracy, not just confident advice. This is specifically for indeterminate tomatoes. If you are growing a determinate variety, the compact, bushy kind bred to set one concentrated harvest, do not heavily prune it. You will cut into the very growth that carries your harvest. Check your seed packet or plant tag if you are unsure which type you have. Second, and this matters most in the South and the mountain states where the sun is brutal, do not overprune. If you strip too many leaves, you expose the fruit to direct sun and it develops suns called pale, leathery patches that turn to rot. The University of Georgia Extension and Iowa State both warn about this. The leaves are the plant's umbrella. Prune for airflow. Leave enough canopy to shade the fruit. Balance, not a buzz cut. Mistake 5. Panicking when the flowers drop in the heat. This is the one most gardening videos never mention. And it is the one that tricks even experienced gardeners into making everything worse. You did everything right. You watered consistently. You backed off the nitrogen. You watered at the base in the morning. You pruned for airflow. The plant is lush, green, and gorgeous. And then in late June, it stops setting fruit entirely. The flowers open, they look healthy, and then they yellow, dry up, and fall off the plant without ever becoming a tomato. So you panic, you assume you are doing something wrong. You start feeding more, watering more. Maybe you add a fertilizer. Maybe you pick up a blossom spray. And every single one of those things makes it worse. Here is the truth. The problem is not you. The problem is the heat, and it has a name, blossom drop. Here is the mechanism, and it is purely physical. A tomato flower has to pollinate itself. The pollen only stays viable inside a specific temperature window. Once your daytime highs climb past roughly 85 to 90 Fahrenheit and your nights stay above 72 Fahrenheit, the pollen becomes non-viable. It goes tacky and dead. The flower cannot set fruit no matter how healthy the plant is, no matter how perfect your care has been. So the plant does the only logical thing. It aborts the flower and drops it to conserve energy. The Alabama Cooperative Extension System puts the threshold at daytime temperatures above 85 Fahrenheit and nighttime temperatures above 72 Fahrenheit. Oklahoma State University Extension puts the daytime ceiling around 92 Fahrenheit. The University of Illinois Extension confirms tomatoes drop blossoms when summer days run above 90 Fahrenheit. This is not a soil problem. It is not a feeding problem. It is a thermostat problem. And adding more fertilizer to a thermostat problem does absolutely nothing. So what do you actually do? 3 things. First, give the plant afternoon shade. Drape a 30 to 40% shade cloth over the plants during the hottest part of the day, from roughly noon to 4 in the afternoon. Purdue University Extension and West Virginia University Extension Both recommend shade cloth in the 30 to 50% range to cut heat stress and reduce blossom drop. You can get it at Lowe's, Home Depot, or order it online for very little. Hang it up on the west and south-facing sides on stakes or hoops so air can still flow underneath. You are not blocking the sun. You are just taking the edge off the worst of the afternoon. Let the morning and early evening sun reach the plant normally. Second, keep your watering rock steady. A heat-stressed plant that also dries out is a plant that gives up completely. Those two stresses combined are the fastest way to lose the rest of the season. Third, and this is the long game, plant heat-set varieties next season. These are tomatoes specifically bred to keep setting fruit in high-heat conditions, developed for the southern summers that were wiping out standard varieties. The Alabama Cooperative Extension System credits them with fruiting even in conditions that would make an ordinary tomato stop cold. Look for them by name at Burpee, Park Seed, or your local nursery, especially if you garden anywhere across the South or the lower mountain states where 95-degree afternoons are just June. And here is the real gift in understanding this mistake. Once you know blossom drop is a temperature response, you stop blaming yourself. You stop overfeeding a plant that doesn't need it. You stop second-guessing your entire care routine. You simply wait out the worst of the heat, knowing the plant will start setting fruit again the moment the nights cool back below 72 Fahrenheit. It is patience, not panic. The close 3 disciplines, not 5 random rules. Before we wrap this up, do one thing. Think of one person in your life, a neighbor, a sibling, someone from church, a friend who texts you photos of their dying tomato plants every July and never understands why. Send them this video. Don't write a long message. Just send the link. It might be the thing that finally gives them a real harvest. Now let me pull all 5 of these together, because they are not 5 random rules, they are 3 disciplines. And once you see them that way, June stops feeling like a minefield. The first discipline is water. That is mistakes 1 and 3 working together, how much you water and how consistently, plus where and when you put that water. At the base, in the morning, never on the leaves, never at night. Master your water and you have shut down rot and shut down the disease that kills. The second discipline is feeding. That is mistake 2. The wisdom to stop feeding leaves and start feeding fruit by cutting the nitrogen and shifting toward phosphorus. Restraint is the fix, not more product. The third discipline is air and heat. That is mistakes 4 and 5. Opening the canopy so the plant can breathe and dry fast, and shading it so the heat can't shut down the harvest. Water, feeding, air and heat. Get those 3 right in June and the plant carries you all the way to a full August basket. Miss even one of them, and you spend July watching a problem that could have been stopped in 30 seconds. That is why June matters more than any other month. June is the hinge the whole season swings on. And listen, if you've been gardening for a few decades, this is about more than produce. You know that already. A garden is not really about vegetables. It is about standing in your own backyard in the cool of the evening, handing a warm, ripe tomato to someone you love, watching them bite into something that did not exist 60 days ago because you made it exist. You have earned that harvest. These 5 mistakes are the only thing standing between you and it. Now you know all of them. If this video helped you, subscribe. It is free. It will always be free. Every week I put out content like this, real reasons things go wrong, real fixes, no fluff, nothing to sell you. Now I want to hear from you on 2 things. First, which of these 5 mistakes have you already made this season? Be honest. We have all made at least one. Tell me in the comments. And second, what state are you watching from? And if you know your USTA growing zone, drop that too. Where you live changes everything here, and I want to see who is out there. Now go check your plants. Water at the base. In the morning. I will see you in the next one.